fundamentals of customer service. जब customer service की fundamentals की बात कर रहे हैं, we are actually talking about some of the important points जो कल हम बात किए हैं, which was attributes of service excellence. So what do you understand by this word attributes? Attributes are nothing but characteristics. We looked at various characteristics of service excellence. We talked a lot about what are the differences between products and services. We learned that products are tangible, services are intangible. Products have a physical shape. Services do not have any physical shape. Container Corporation is in the business of transportation. Container Corporation of India is in the business of mobility and logistics. This is a service function, right? This is a service function. Teaching, training, which I am doing right now. This is also a service function, because once the lecture is over, all you take along with you is nothing but learning from this workshop. Sensitization. We talked a lot about sensitization, right? Products can be stored and sold later. If there is a dip in the market, your products can be stored and sold after 3 months, after 6 months, after 8 months, depending on the shelf life of the product. Generally, it is customary that as you near the shelf life, if the product is a perishable product, and let us assume its shelf life is 6 months, at the close of 5 months or 5.5 months, you can always announce discounts, sales promotion measures, and you can exhaust all your stock. But as far as services are concerned, we looked at the example of an aircraft. If the aircraft has 72 seats, and let us assume only 30 seats are full, the remaining 32 seats, the revenue you have lost by virtue of not filling up those 42 seats, 42 seats, that is a sunk cost. That money is gone. You will never be able to recover that cost, because if the capacity of the aircraft is 72, the next day 120 people come to you, you cannot accommodate. Therefore, it is necessary that we have to fill up all the seats in the aircraft. Same thing holds good for a hotel also. If you have 40 rooms in Taj, for example, 100 rooms in JW Marriott in Mumbai, if only 70% of the rooms are occupied, 25% rooms are not occupied. The next day, if 125 people come, you can only accommodate 100. So that money is lost. That is why, while customer satisfaction, service excellence, it is important in all the fields, it is much more important in the service function where each one of you are working. Each one of you have a role to play as far as the customer satisfaction or service excellence is concerned, right? So before we look into this aspect of some attributes of service excellence, we need to first understand some of the fundamentals of customer service. These are very simple terms, so I will not go deep into explaining everything. The first is listening. 50% of the customer problems are solved if you listen to the customer. We have discussed a lot about this yesterday, right? So first is what? Listening. Can you all please note it down in a piece of paper, please? You can please note each of these. First is listening. Second is, after listening, you need to understand. There is a difference between listening and hearing. Please understand that there is a difference between listening and hearing. Hear means your object, that is ears, are working. Understanding is a combination of working of your ears and working of your brain. Then what is the third step? Mitigate. Mitigation is the process of avoidance. How do you mitigate the risk of losing your car? Through an insurance policy. Am I right? The same thing holds good as far as customer satisfaction is concerned, because the third important point is mitigation of risk. Fourth, communication. How well you communicate with the customer. We will talk about 3 V's of communication. When we talk about 3 V's of communication, 3 things are extremely important. The verbal aspect of what you are speaking. Verbal means the words you say. The second aspect of communication is the vocal aspect of what you are saying. Vocal is your tone, the pitch, the intonation, the loudness. Each of these play a very, very important role as far as vocal is concerned. Verbal, words and the words alone. Vocal, the manner in which those words are said. Most of the customer complaints, they arise not because of the words used, but because the manner in which those words are said. There comes the vocal aspect of communication. And third, most important, incidentally, that also starts with V, that is the visual. Words, when they are said, how is your body language? How was your face when you said that words? These 3 aspects make your communication very, very powerful. And this communication is required whether you are a manager in the organization, you are a divisional manager, or you are in any job or any role which involves persuasion, persuading people, influencing people, right? So that's the aspect of communication we are talking about. And next is action. It is not just enough you listen to the customer, you have understood, you have tried to mitigate the risk of the customer, you have communicated properly. All that is fine. Like Ajay was mentioning some time back, ultimately that has to result in the end outcome, what the customer wants. Here in this case, your customer wants his container to be transported from New Delhi to Navasheva port in order to meet his shipment obligations. That's the final outcome that your customer wants. Therefore, you have to act. Right? The words have to be followed by deeds. Very, very important. And then comes remedy. We have talked about this simple fact that not everything is under our control. The rake might get delayed. There may be a dharna on the railway track. Your cranes may not work. There may be seasonal issues. There may be traffic congestion near Vapi or Kota. Anything can take it. So when you're talking about this transportation and logistic movement from Delhi to Navasheva, you're beset with lots and lots of problems, right? Not everything is under your control. But we talked about area of control, area of no control, area of influence, area of no influence, and we also talked about area of no control, no influence. Each one of you, your role is like a small spare part in a clock. If there are 100 parts in a clock, each of those 100 parts have to do their functions properly. Small gear meshing with a bigger gear, that is meshing with a rod, that is meshing with a connecting rod, which is connected to a spring, which is moving the pendulum. I'm talking about old clocks. and there is a bell at the strike of 12, it will ring the bell 12 times. So each of these parts have to work in tandem. Even if a small spring doesn't work, the clock doesn't work. So you are a cog in the wheel. You are undertaking a very small function, and each of those functions are important. The function of a crane driver is as important as the function of your chairman and managing director. Please understand that. There is nothing called a big post and a small post. The man who is putting the seal on your rig, that function is as important as the general manager, operations manager, right? This is what is important, right? So action, so remedy, we are talking about remedy. In these kind of places, there will be surprises, there will be issues. We have to learn from those issues. And finally comes prevention. After remedy comes prevention. What is it we can do to prevent these kind of things in future is what is extremely important. Right? You're all part of railways. What happens when there is a derailment? There was a derailment recently in Bengal. Bilkul. What happens? Your safety. The DRM immediately visits that place. Safety officer, your safety DRM, JGM, Eastern Railway visits that place and says, what was that mistake? Was it because of man, material, method, money? They look at the root cause of all these problems and actions are taken to ensure such mistakes are not repeated in future, right? The same thing holds good in each function, right? One mistake has happened, the show must go on, but at the same time, we have to put in checks and balances, preventive measures in order to ensure that such things do not repeat in future. Very, very important. So this completes the cycle. So when you talk about fundamentals of consumer service, customer service, please remember all these 7 points. Listen, understand, mitigate, communicate, act, remedy, and then prevention. All these are extremely important. This completes the cycle. सब लोगों ने लिख लिया इसको. चलिए इसके बारे में थोड़ा सा डिस्कशन करेंगे before we get into the next issue, which is moment of truth. There we are going to talk about a case study of how Scandinavian airline company, which was in the verge of bankruptcy, was once again brought to life. Right? We will talk about that. Right? Please write all those 5 points before we assume the next. Please.